Where does the name Palestine come from? Have you ever wondered that? I'm always surprised at the various groups that I lead here in Israel with different perspectives and different political opinions, and how on both sides of that spectrum, neither one of them knows where the name Palestine actually comes from. So the name Palestine was first given over to the land of Israel in the year 135 CE, in the Common Era that some people will refer to as AD. This was after the Bar Kokhba revolt. Bar Kokhba was a Jewish leader, a military strategist that actually defeated the Roman army for a number of years. But the emperor of Rome at that time, a man by the name of Hadrian, will come in and conquer Bar Kokhba and his rebels and the fighters here and destroy Jerusalem to its very core. Nothing is standing in Jerusalem. He renames Jerusalem, Hadrian, from Yerushalayim, from Jerusalem, to Capitolina. He names it after himself, but he doesn't stop there. He actually renames the land of Israel, and he calls it Palestinia, Syria, or Palestine. And why Palestine? Where does this name even come from? So he really named it after our Jewish people's first temple period enemies, the Philistines, or in Hebrew, the Plishtim, right? The Philistines are the ones who killed the first king of Israel, who killed King Saul, Shaul HaMelech. It's the one that David HaMelech fought against so many times. The Philistines were our first temple period enemies, but they basically assimilate into Babylonian culture. After the Babylonian exile, we do not hear anything of the Plishtim, of the Philistines, of the Palestinians, if you want to say that, until the year 135 CE. They had not existed in 600 years, but then Hadrian comes in. And he doesn't just rename Jerusalem, he renames Israel after 1,400 years of Israel being referred to as Israel, as the land of Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, which is another name for Jacob, one of our forefathers. He names it Palestine. And why does the name Palestine still stick around to this very day? Well, this is something that's going to blow your mind. It's something that I want you to stick in your back pocket. It's something that I want you to understand. Something that no matter what, if you want establishment of a Palestinian state, if you don't want an establishment of a Palestinian state, it doesn't make a difference. We must enter into the negotiations with facts and understanding of the history of this parcel of land. Is that since the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70 CE by the Romans, the land of Israel has not been independent under anyone. No one, not Jews, not Christians, not Muslims, not Hindus, not Buddhists, not atheists, no one, never been independent, always controlled by foreign empires, whether it was the Roman Empire or the early Arab empires, whether it was empires from Cairo, empires from Damascus, because it was always switching hands, because the Arab Muslim nations were always fighting one another, or whether it was the Crusaders from Europe who came over, who fought with the Muslims for like 200 years, and it would go from one to the other, from this one to that one, or there was the late Arab period, the Mamelukes from Cairo, or the Turks during the Ottoman Empire, or even the British ruled here for almost 30 years. Is that the land of Israel was always controlled by a foreign entity. It was never independent. In fact, Israel, the land, just the land of Israel, you want to call it Israel, you want to call it Palestine, this parcel of land, the land of Israel has only been independent, has only in the entire history of mankind, since we've been recording history, since man has been able to write in words and to be able to give forth its history. The only time the land of Israel has been independent is under Jewish world. I know, shocking, blows your mind. I'm sure you probably didn't realize that. Fact. Independence only under Israel. Since the destruction of 70 CE all the way up to 1948, it's been ruled by foreign entities until the Jewish people were able to throw off the yoke of foreign oppression and to liberate ourselves, to liberate our land and ourselves through it. Were we once again able to make the land independent itself. So, the name Palestine has lasted because of all those other empires that ruled here, who shifted populations. In fact, the only consistency to stay here in the land of Israel is that during that tumultuous period of foreign rule for 2,000 years, changing from one empire to the next, is that there was always pockets of Jews living here, waiting for their brothers and sisters to return home to the land of Israel, to our ancestral homeland, to our rightful land. And these empires who ruled here had a choice. Do we call it Israel, right? Go back to its original name, or do we call it Palestine? And since there's no Palestinians, there's nobody to rebel, so let's just call it Palestine and make it easy on ourselves. Now, I'm not trying to say that there's no such thing as a Palestinian, because today there's 4 million plus people who call themselves Palestinian today. However, that term was coined only in 1964 to refer to themselves as Palestinians. Really was a name that was given to this area during the Roman period. In fact, there's not even a p sound in the Arabic alphabet in their language, right? So where's this name Palestine come from? Well, I just told you, Palestine was a name that was given by the Romans, particularly an emperor called Hadrian, in the year 135 CE. That was, during the Roman reign, but all foreign empire, the whole time between the destruction of the temple until 1948, foreign empires ruled this area, and they all just kept that name Palestine. So there you go, Israel Advocacy 101. Everybody needs to know facts before they head to the negotiation table. You might say, hey, there's a Palestinian people today and they have a right to independence. Fine, no problem. Let's sit down and say, hey, there's a new group of people who want to separate themselves, who want to call themselves Palestinian, who want to have a land to call their own. They want to call it Palestine. They want to establish that in Judea and Samaria, in the ancestral Jewish homeland, the place that was occupied by foreign oppressors until the yoke of foreign oppression was thrown off by the Jewish people. Fine, I get that. But that's how we should enter into those negotiations, rather than with ideas and thoughts that the Palestinians are ancient or indigenous to the land of Israel, because this is just simply not true. And truth is what we need, especially when discussing very tense and serious topics such as that. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed that little history lesson. Hope to see you all here soon. Thanks for watching, and if you want more great content like that, visit my Patreon site at patreon.com/David Sussman, where I have several episodes of my TV show, Land of the Bible, and videos like the one you just watched. During the coronavirus pandemic, I've made it free for everyone. Being that so many of us are stuck at home and homeschooling our children, I thought this would be helpful. However, if you can become a contributor, please do. This is the way that I'm supporting my family and myself during these difficult times. Thank you.